Hi everyone. In the previous video of this playlist, we discussed the concept around domain and range, and we discussed it in that much amount of detail that we spent around 30 minutes in that video. Now, in this video, what I'm going to do is we're going to continue from this concept on how do you find the range very quickly, because of course the domain in most of the cases will be given to you in your question in different ways, and based on that, what is the best way to find the range? We discussed in the last video that the best way to find the range is to sketch the function, and once the function is right in front of you, just look into what is the minimum output and the maximum output. So taking, let's say, this example in front of you, the x square was the purple graph, and now looking at the domain -2 to 3, I have defined my -2 to 3 randomly on the x-axis, and between them I have highlighted a specific part of the graph, which means that this is the only black graph that I need to focus upon. Everything else is not part of this function at all. And now in this black part, I can say that 0 is the minimum output and 9 is the maximum output. In this case, when both the things are proper value, nothing is like plus infinity or minus infinity. I'll discuss about that more in this video. But yeah, if let's say both the values that you got are pure numbers, in this case, you can write your range in this format from minimum to maximum. But guess what? This is not the only way to write your range. There are two more ways in which you can write your range. For this type of question, of course, this is the way. But then there are different ways. Let's say one of the values will be plus infinity or maybe minus infinity. In that case, how to write your range? And this is the doubt that I've got a lot of times on the online platforms like WhatsApp, Extreme Papers community, and a lot of different kind of platforms. And that is exactly why I'm creating this video. Before jumping into sketching graphs, you should be aware about that there are three different techniques in which you can write your range. So whenever you're going to plot your graph, you identify the minimum and the maximum value. You just ask question to yourself that out of these three techniques that I'm going to show you, which technique you are going to utilize to write your final answer. So let us start with the first way of writing the range. I'll take this similar example so that you can understand that if the minimum and the maximum values are pure numbers, none of them is either of the infinities, like a positive or a negative. In that case, what is the best way you can use to write your range? So for that, I'll need to draw some graph. Let me give a heading that this is the first type that you are looking into. And the graph I'm going to draw right now is just a random graph. My main aim in this video is not to teach you graph, but once the graph is given, and if you have identified the minimum and the maximum values, after that, how to write your range. So yes, let's say some kind of a graph like this is given to you, and the domain lies in between this and this value. So every x values in between these two are going to be part of the input of the function, everything between that. So what will be the respective outputs, guys? The respective outputs, of course, will start from here and it will end somewhere over here. So I'll just say that from the entire yellow graph, I just need to focus on this blue part. And from this blue part, I need to identify which is the maximum output and which is the minimum output, or in other words, which is the highest part of the graph and which is the lowest part of the graph. Clearly I can see that this is the maximum value that your graph is showing. Somewhere over here some kind of a value might be written. Let's call it maximum only, some maximum value is written. And where is the minimum value? Clearly this is not the minimum, this is called as minima, but this is not the minimum value that my graph is giving in the given domain. It is over here. This is the minimum value that my graph is showing in the blue region. So of course, if I just say, okay, this is my minimum value. So let's say you have identified what is your minimum and the maximum value, and none of them are infinity. In that case, you will say, you will always write your minimum first, whatever it is, you write that value minimum, then write maximum on the right side, and then write your output, that is your y-axis. In other words, f of x, the function. And now if you've written minimum on the left side, you will always write less than over here and also less than over here. You will never write greater than signs like this if minimum is on the left side. If you want to write your answer like this, so maximum will come over here and minimum will come over here. But don't get confused. Just choose any one and stick to that. And because in your examination, a lot of time they give you questions in this format, I recommend you to remember this format as compared to this one. Okay, so let's skip this part and focus only on the first part. That is, this is the way in which you can write your range. From minimum to a maximum value, let's say 0 to 9, your outputs can lie anywhere between that. Now, sometimes 0 or maybe whatever is the minimum value could be part of the range. Sometimes it could not be. Similarly for the maximum value. So if it is a part of the range, you can use this equal to sign. When to use it, I'll teach that to you in the upcoming videos. For now, just know that either the less than or less than equal to can come over here. Okay, minimum to maximum outputs could be anything between these values. So this was the first technique. I hope you got this. Now let's talk about the second way to write your range, where one of the values, minimum or maximum, is one of the infinities, like plus infinity or minus infinity. Okay. In that case, how we are going to write your range? So let me draw another graph, and let me draw something very similar to what you have seen over here. Okay. It does not look exactly same, but yeah, something like this, let's say. And this time your domain is not fixed between these two values like this. Let's say your domain is to the right side of this particular value. Everything on the x-axis to the right side of this value is going to be part of your domain. So there is no restrictions now. Your x can be as high as possible. And respectively on the graph, what you can see, the outputs are starting from this point, and then it keeps on going downwards and downwards and downwards and downwards. And it can keep on going downwards if there was no end. That is what this symbol is showing you of an arrow. And then because it's pointing downwards, it is going to go till negative infinity. It can go as negative as you can think. Okay, it is called as negative infinity. Now here is some number. Is this number maximum or minimum, given that your graph can go to the least possible value, right? It can go forever down. So of course this has to be your maximum value. So just look into your graph that what is this maximum value. Okay, just look what is that maximum value, and everything below the maximum value, everything you can think about below this value is part of your output. So that is the second way to write your range. You are saying that your output f of x is always going to be smaller, less than the maximum value that you have written over here. It will be always smaller than that. Now, if let's say maximum value is part of your range, you will also write equal to sign. If it's not part of the range, you will just write less than, right? Either of thing is fine. The important thing is either you write this sign or this sign. So out of these two, you are choosing less than sign. Okay. What is this indicating? That my range or the output values are always less than, right? This is the symbol for less than, is always less than this given maximum value. So I hope this is clear. This was the second way to write your range if minus infinity is involved. Now the third case. The third case in which you will involve a positive infinity. In that case, how will you write your range? So something like this. Let me draw a random graph. Okay, once again. So let's say my domain is from this value and everything to the right side. Right side or left side of the domain does not matter. What matters is in the graph, the output of the graph. Is it plus infinity? It's going to plus infinity or it's going to minus infinity. That is important. So let's say this is the domain that I'm randomly picking up. Everything to the right side is a part of your domain. So the respective outputs, of course, will start from this point and will go till positive infinity. There is no stop. As the x value increases, y value will keep on increasing. That is what is shown by this arrow. So this is how the graph is going to look like. Now in this entire graph, please tell me which is the minimum output and which is the maximum output. Clearly I can see that your output can go as high as possible, that is plus infinity, and the minimum value that your graph is giving you, the output, is here. This is your minimum value. So of course from the graph you can identify what is that minimum value, and maximum value this time is plus infinity. It can go as high as possible starting from this minimum value. So you are saying that your output, that is f of x, is always either equal to minimum or greater than minimum. If let's say minimum is not part of your range, you will say that it's greater than this minimum value. So all the outputs that are greater than that value are possible. That is what you are trying to highlight. So the third and the last way that you are showing over here is your function is always greater than, your output is always greater than that minimum value. It could be whatever that you have seen from the graph. If it's also included in as the part of your range, you will also write this equal to sign, or else you will not write that equal to sign, right? So your outputs are always greater than that particular value. That becomes your range. So I hope that these three ways of writing your range is now clear to you properly. In the upcoming videos, you will see I am highly utilizing these three ways to write your answer. Now, in the upcoming videos, I'll not be talking about like, why did I choose this way, or this way. After watching this video, I hope that is going to be clear. And that was the reason of creating a separate video where you are able to understand what are the three different ways in which you can write your range. The first one is between two different values. If they are pure numbers, it goes from minimum to the maximum value with the less than sign always in between. The second thing is if let's say one of the value is minus infinity. So of course the other value has to be the maximum possible value on that graph. In that case, the outputs are always less than, all the outputs you can see are less than this maximum value. So you say that your outputs, that is f of x, is always less than your maximum value. And similarly, this was the last part. If everything is above a minimum value such that the maximum value is plus infinity, you can say that the outputs, that is your f of x, will always be greater than to that minimum value. So I hope this video has given you a proper idea about how to write your ranges in three different formats. And now in the upcoming videos in this playlist, you will see how and where I'm utilizing this particular concept. Thank you so much.